Hey, it's Dave. Hey, today I want to talk about the major scale, and I apologize for the yellow paint on my fingers. I want to talk about the major scale over 2 octaves. I want to talk about the major arpeggio and the major 7th arpeggio over 2 octaves. And I want to also talk a little bit briefly about the inversions of the major scale. So these are all, I guess, what I would consider intermediate subjects to talk about. And the first thing we'll talk about is a major scale. So there are multiple ways that we can play the major scale over 2 octaves. Now, most of us, when we first learn the bass, we learn the major scale in this position here. It's one of the first things most students learn. And then maybe we learn later on that we can extend it to there. And then if we want to go all the way up to here, now we're at a point where we have to play the rest of the scale on the G string, which can get a little awkward playing all of those other notes on one string. Another way we might play a 2-octave major scale would be using, I guess, what I consider the guitar position, which is it's got this big wide stretch, which if we're starting on G, you know, it's G, A, B. That's a big stretch. But we can G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So we can, but it's got these it's kind of a big jump there. I think an easier way, or the best way for me to play a 2-octave major scale is to use this pattern that I'm going to show you right now, where you basically, you're changing your position much more. So what I do is I start on G, I move my hand up to A, then I get the B, C, then I go to the D, I slide my hand up to E, just the same thing, the same hand position, go over to the D string, which is playing the note A, so this creates more of like a linear way to play the scale. So that's the way I prefer, or the method I prefer to play a 2-octave major scale. And it's not hard. It does take a little bit of practice. And what I would suggest is just learning to play the first octave. And that's just played on the E and the A strings. And then learn to play add part of the 2nd octave in. And then you can add the last 3 notes. And that will, once you get that down, then you'll have that facility to play the G major scale for 2 octaves, and it utilizes all 4 strings. Another thing that is good to practice when you're practicing major scales are major arpeggios. And there's a lot of different arpeggios we got to practice. We could practice you know, dominant chords, and we could practice major 6th chords and different arpeggios. But today we're just going to keep it simple, and we're just going to talk about the major chord and the major 7th chord, which are extremely simple. The only difference is the major chord is a 3-note chord, G, B, and D, and the major 7th chord has the 7th thrown in, an F sharp. So a 1-octave arpeggio is just what I did. G, B, D, F sharp, back to G. Now, if we want to play that over 2 octaves, that now we get into this situation again where we get over to the G string, and we've got to play a lot of notes on the G string, and it gets a little bit awkward, you know. We've got these big jumps. But if we can play more horizontal down the bass neck with our arpeggio, we can make that fingering a lot easier. So what we do is we start at G again. So we play our B up here, our D, all right, you see how that works? If we want to play our seventh chord, we just have to add the F sharp into there. See how much smoother, it even looks smoother as I play it. So practice those things. Practice the 2-octave major scale. And practice the 2-octave major and major 7th arpeggios. And practice those things, and then start practicing them in other keys. A good thing to do is just start at F and just go up the neck, go up each fret, and you can go all the way up to E flat. If you have a P bass, you can go up to E flat because it only has 20 frets, and that's where a P bass ends. The highest note is E flat. If you have a bass with 21 or 22 or 24 frets, well, you can just keep on going. The sky is the limit with you people with these awesome multi-fretted basses. But me, with my old thing, I can only go up to E flat. Now let's talk about chord inversions. Chord inversions are basically taking a major chord and starting. So if we take a major chord, which has 3 notes in it, G, B, and D. The first inversion, instead of starting on G, we start on B. So actually, it was I went to the 7th. So the first inversion, it's G, B, D, and the first inversion is B, D, G. Then the third inversion is D, G, B. Now, why would you want to know this? Why would you want to know about chord inversions or think about them? Well, the reason you would want to think about a chord inversion is because in those are alternate notes that you can play over a chord. So if the piano player plays a, he plays a G major chord, well, you could put, if you wanted to be really saucy, you could put a D in the bottom of it. I'll just drop my... Or you could put a B in the bottom of it. You could put one of those other notes that are in the chord in the bottom of that note. And effectively change what the note what the chord might be called, which, hey, may tick somebody off. So, these are things you want to use with caution, but there are some situations where you can alter your root note that you're playing and change the sound of the other chords, and the way you know which notes you can use is by knowing the chord they're playing, which is what the arpeggio is. It's just the notes of the chord played singly. And knowing that you can do inversions, that you can change which note we put in the bottom of that chord. So these are just kind of practical things that you can use. And I think this is more like of an intermediate bass player type of lesson. So thanks. If you have any questions, let me know.